Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, hope you're doing well. Today we're reviewing Slow Riot for New Zero Kanada. This was an EP released by the band Godspeed You Black Emperor in March 1999. So Godspeed You Black Emperor is a Canadian post-rock band that's been active since the 90s, and this was their one and only EP. They're known for their very intricate and atmospheric music that makes use of extended crescendos, field recordings, and vocal samples. Even though they're not exactly mainstream, they've been very influential in the genre of post-rock and they're widely praised. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of their music. I think some of their music is a little too ambient and experimental for my taste. But I do really love certain parts of their music, such as parts of their debut album, F# A# Infinity, and their second album, Lift Your Skinny Fists Like Antennas to Heaven. Yeah, they have some cryptic album titles. Just as a whole, I can't say I love these albums, but this EP here I do enjoy quite a bit. While it's obviously not as long or ambitious as their albums, I think the music here packs a lot of emotion, and I find this to be a lot more condensed and digestible than their longer albums. So this EP only consists of 2 tracks, Moya and BBF3. Even so, it's still 29 minutes, as these tracks are about 11 and 18 minutes long. Musically, this album continues pretty much the same sound as the band's album from a couple years before this, F# A# Infinity. This has the same very apocalyptic and solemn sound that album did. On this EP, Godspeed uses long, drawn-out compositions to create an apocalyptic atmosphere. There's no singing here. Instead, they use the instrumentation of the guitar, drums, and bass to create this atmosphere. They also use orchestral elements, and they even have a vocal sample of an interview they conducted. So let me talk about the first track, Moya. This track is incredible. I mean, I liked this the first time I heard it, but over time it's only grown on me, and at this point I think it's a perfect 10 out of 10. There's not a second wasted here. They convey so much emotion here without saying a single word. The track starts off with some very mournful strings. This section is really quite beautiful and gets across feelings of sadness and grief. Take a listen to this sample. So this goes on for a few minutes, and then we break into this very quiet guitar riff. This riff is the beginning of a crescendo that basically lasts for the rest of the song, and what a crescendo this is. It carries so much weight and emotion. This guitar riff is repeated a few times, and then the bass and drums join in. There's also this slightly faster section at the end that's an extremely satisfying release after the crescendo. The bass and drums play off the guitar so well in this part. It's honestly hard to put into words. You just have to listen to it. The song is a wonderful journey. It takes you from a place of despair and hopelessness, and you end up in a place of almost optimism. It's kind of life-affirming. And Moya flows seamlessly into BBF3. This track starts very minimally with a repeated clean guitar riff and a sample of an interview over it. This is an interview that the band did with the man they met. The title BBF3 stands for Blaze Bailey Finnegan III, which is the supposed name of the man that they're interviewing. And in this interview, the band asks him several questions about the general state of the world. The man expresses his thoughts on how he thinks the government is corrupt and how the world is just headed in a really bad direction. As the interview goes on, the man gets angrier and his tone of voice gets more intense. And to match this, the instrumental gets louder.
I sustained my money, now I am leaving. And I left it at that. Before I left, I turned around and told the judge, I saw the state of the land, to be honest.
This part is pretty well done, and it really does create a mood of pessimism and hopelessness. And they play part of this interview before going into an instrumental crescendo, after which they go back to finish the rest of the interview, after which they go back to the crescendo. I like how they have the interview split up like this throughout the song. It helps to make a stronger connection between the instrumentation and the interview. And the music here is again pretty intense and grandiose sounding. At the end of the interview, the man recites a poem about general distrust that he has for the government. But the thing is, this isn't a poem. These are actually just slightly modified lyrics from an Iron Maiden song called Virus. Also, the name that the man gave, Blaze Bayley Finnegan III, is very similar to the name of the Iron Maiden singer in the 90s, Blaze Bayley. So all this really makes you question the credibility of the man and whether everything he's saying he really believes in, but it's still a pretty interesting interview overall. And this track and the EP end with some appropriately sorrowful strings. Being honest, I don't like BBF3 nearly as much as Moya, but I still think it's a good track, and it doesn't drag or anything for me. It just doesn't quite have the emotional punch for me that Moya did. Overall, this is a really solid EP from Godspeed You Black Emperor that has a pretty solemn, pessimistic atmosphere. I think this would be a good starting point for someone trying to get into the band, because it has all of the prominent elements that their music does, like the long crescendos and the interview samples, but it's a lot more condensed and digestible than their albums. And even though I can't call myself a big fan of the band, I definitely like this EP, and especially Moya. If you're a post-rock fan at all, or if you like emotional, atmospheric rock, you're going to want to check this one out. I'm going to give the EP Slow Riot for New Zero Kanada a 7.9 out of 10. Well guys, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like on it. If you've heard this EP, let me know what you think about it in the comments. And if you want to see more reviews like this, go ahead and subscribe. Other than that, I will catch you in the next video.